Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down Luke chapter 23 verse 30, where Jesus Christ said, "Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us." In this text, Jesus Christ was quoting Hosea chapter 10 verse 8, where a very similar statement was made. And he was talking to the Jews who at this time had lost their spiritual senses and were practically on their way to doom. If you read Luke chapter 19, verses 41 to 44, you see Jesus Christ lamenting over Jerusalem, lamenting over the Jews for having reached such a low point, right, where they were now facing death, which came 36 and a half years later. And they didn't even know. The Son of God came and they practically wanted to kill him, and they went ahead and did so. And Jesus Christ said that as part of what was going to happen to them for embracing that kind of iniquity, he said that they would begin to say to the mountains that they should fall on them, and to the hills that they should cover them. Mountains and hills in those days were places of refuge. Often when soldiers would begin to lose the battle they're fighting, they would flee to such places of refuge. Like in Joshua chapter 10 verse 16, where the 5 kings that were fighting against Joshua fled to a cave when they saw that Joshua's men were practically destroying their armies. If you look at the story of David, you see that when King Saul was chasing him all around, he would often flee to such strongholds, caves and mountains and so on, to hide himself. If you read 1 Samuel chapter 23 verses 14 and 19, and chapter 26 verse 1. So in the context of this discussion, Jesus Christ was saying that when God would begin to judge them for their iniquities, they would begin to look for such places to hide. Maybe some of the Jews would physically want to go to mountains. Other wicked men would try to meander their way through, maybe try to form some kind of alliance with the Roman leaders at the time to try to see if they could escape the judgment, hide under something. But if we read what happened in AD 70, all such efforts failed because the Romans, they laid siege on the city, they starved the nation, brought it to its knees, and they massacred the people. It was a tragedy, terrible event. Now, in Revelation chapter 6, verses 16 and 17, we see that this whole idea, this prophecy, in fact, that Jesus Christ made, was not just for the Jews only. It was also prophetic for those of us who would live in the last days. The nobles, the mighty men, the political leaders of today's world, when the last days would come, they would begin to say to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb, who is Jesus Christ. He's the one sitting on the throne, because the angel had told Mary, the child you will have, which is Jesus Christ, he will be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord shall give unto him the throne of his father David. So Jesus Christ would be a king, and he would begin to execute this judgment on political leaders because of the iniquity that they committed. And what iniquities are those? If you look at the monarchies, the kings and princes who used to rule the world for over 5,000 years, you saw the dehumanization they caused via slavery, the exploitation that they did to beef up their personal wealth, the lies that they told, the alliances that they made with spiritual leaders to try to deceive the people, to make them look genuine, that God actually anointed them to rule over them, whereas it was for their own benefit. If you read Psalm 10, verses 1 to 11, you see all the evils that they committed. You read history books, you see all these things. And the Bible says that because God is a just judge, if you read Genesis chapter 18, verse 25, he would come after them at some point. And this judgment began in 1914, when we saw World War I break open, and the monarchies fell through that war. They fell through that conflict. And that's why the world that survived that terrible conflict saw freedom. If you look at the world today, the monarchies that remain do not have control over the world like the ones of the past. We're freer now. And because of this, the political leaders are no longer able to exercise that total power that they used to before, because God's judgment has now come on them. And what have they done? According to the Revelation account, they have now hid themselves under the system we see today, the democratic system. Because if you notice, when these politicians are making their campaign speeches, promising the whole world, promising that we're going to make your lives great, we're going to do everything that you want. They do that because they need your votes. They need you to vote for them so that they can get into office. But the moment they get into office, they never come back to ask you what you want. They don't ask you how you want them to spend the money you pay in taxes. They don't ask you whether starting a war somewhere is a good idea. No, because they don't care about your opinion. Once they take that power from you, they begin to act as kings and emperors and do whatever they want. Because that's what they wanted from the very beginning, but because God's judgment has begun, they can no more exercise it the way the kings used to do. And the way they hide this is through all the charitable works you see them do sometimes. Maybe they'll just go to a nation that is poor and just maybe give the nation a lot of food, or maybe bring refugees into their countries and so on, just so that they can send that message that, no, we're genuine. We're different from those who ruled before. Whereas they're actually not. If you read 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 to 15, you see where Paul the Apostle had described this deceit that the political leaders of today try to play on the citizens, try to make themselves look genuine. He said that for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. In other words, he makes himself look genuine through the things that he does, right? But then he finished it by saying, therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. And the Bible promises us that they will not be able to continue this deceit forever. Because those rocks and mountains that they're hiding in, the institutions that they're using to display this outward show of charity and love and righteousness, whereas they actually want to continue ruling, those hiding places will eventually be exposed. If you read Job chapter 34, verse 22, you see where it was said, there is no darkness, nor shadow of death, where the workers of iniquity may hide themselves. And it was also said in Isaiah chapter 59, verse 6, that their webs shall not become garments, neither shall they cover themselves with their works. For their works are works of iniquity, and the act of violence is in their hands. So eventually, peoples of this world who are living in such democratic ruled countries are eventually going to see that they're still being exploited. All their taxes are still being put into the pockets of some individuals or being spread to buy weapons for more conflicts, and they're going to overthrow those systems. And we're already seeing the beginnings of that today, where people are growing dissatisfied with how their money is being spent on things they never approved, and so on. The Bible tells us that eventually they will be completely defeated. If you read Zechariah chapter 10, verse 11, we see that it was said, and he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. Egypt and Assyria were empires of the past. So in today's terms, it refers to the political leaders who will no longer be able to deceive the nations once God's judgment has fully finished. So in summary, what Jesus Christ was telling us in Luke chapter 23, verse 30, is the fact that these wicked men who rule the world will try to hide themselves under institutions that will make them look genuine. They're actually trying to protect themselves so that people don't notice their iniquities, but they're only going to work for a while. Because there's no individual or institution or nation or leader who is able to hide themselves from God. God sees everything and will expose such things. There's nothing hidden that shall not be revealed or made open. If you read Luke chapter 12, verse 2. And we're seeing these things happen today. So that is where I'm going to stop. I'm breaking down Luke chapter 23, verse 30. If you enjoyed this video and liked the things that I said, then I'd greatly appreciate if you click the like button and also the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when I come back with another video just like this, you can click the notification bell. Have a good day, and God bless you.